Half a day, it's your innovation coach, Rob Jackson, and welcome to another edition of the Innovate Guam podcast where we look at all things innovation, technology, and improvement related to the island of Guam. Like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and IG. My podcasts drop beginning of each week. Also, look for my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News the first and third Fridays of each month. Okay, my guest for today's podcast. He is a marine and environmental scientist. He is a true sustainability expert. He is director of the University of Guam's Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant. He currently co-chairs the Guam Green Growth Initiative along with the Office of the Governor of Guam. He is passionately working to revive island ecosystems and advance the 17 United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. He holds a PhD and a master's degree in zoology with specializations in marine biology from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Austin Shelton. Dr. Shelton, welcome to the podcast. So glad to have you.
Thanks, Robert. I really appreciate you having me today.
No, we're excited to hear from you. You're doing great things out there, and we just wanted to give an opportunity to have this conversation to talk. So, are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
All right. So, we have a tradition here on the IG podcast that we start off with some icebreaker questions. I'm going to kind of depart from script. I'm not going to do all of our normal ones. I'm going to add some ones that are really specific to you and what you do at the Triple G. So, first, what is innovation? What's your definition of it, and what does it mean to you?
Innovation is about doing something new. It's about being creative, solving challenges. I like to think about innovation in terms of the work that we do at the University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability, using creativity to solve our island's most pressing challenges to ensure that we have a future.
Outstanding. Tell me about what is sustainability and why is it important?
Well, the real definition of sustainability is meeting the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. But what I always like to say to make it a lot simpler for our community is that sustainability is living on our island like we intend to stay here. And there's all different aspects of sustainability. It's not just about the environment. You know, you have to think about human society, the environment, and the economy. And so when you blend those three things together, there's that sweet spot where if you're achieving all of them for the best practices for the future, that's where you find sustainability.
Absolutely. I love that definition. All right, last question. Um, Tell me, what is a circular economy and how do you achieve it?
Well, the circular economy is a really awesome concept because it's a $4.5 trillion opportunity worldwide if we're all transitioning from the to the circular economy. And to understand that, first you have to understand the economy that we're first in, or that we're currently in, which is the linear economy. Linear economy means you're taking something from the earth, you're making something out of it, you're using it, then you throw it away and start all over again. So the circular economy means that you bend that line into a loop and you do three things. You design out waste and pollution altogether, you keep materials and goods in use, and then you regenerate natural systems. And there's a much simpler way that I think we'll get into more in the podcast about how we actually achieve circularity and transition to the circular economy in our island context here in Guam, because I think that the more that you study and think about the circular economy, you'll find that islands are the original circular economy. So we can do this.
Islands are the original circular economy.
That's right.
Interesting.
We've been here
Explain
for
that a little
30.
bit more.
We've been here for 3,500 to 4,000 years ago, thousands of years before the first colonizers came to Guam from Spain and then later America, where we became dependent on 90% of all the food and goods that we import. But before that, we were the original circular economy. We didn't have waste and pollution. We kept all of our materials and goods in use, and our natural systems were always regenerated because we used the best practices for farming, for fishing, for hunting. So we're not saying that in order to get to the circular economy, we have to go all the way back to the past and live like our ancestors did, but we do have to adapt some of those best lessons, those lessons in island wisdom and and the island innovations that we know how to make and blend it with innovation and technology for today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that uh, explanation. So, here at the IG podcast, we are passionately focused on innovation, technology, and economic development. We see that with the coming explosion of technology, Guam has a unique opportunity to build itself into a technology or innovation hub of the future. So, what I want to ask you to start off with is tell me about your vision of Guam. You and your staff and your partners at the Guam Green Growth Initiative and at the Center of for, for Island Sustainability, you all have a vision of what Guam could be, and you're working toward that. Can you explain that vision to me?
Well, first, it's a vision of Guam that's still there, that we still exist, but not only just exist, but that we're thriving, that Guam has a sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future. And in order to achieve that, we have to make the best decisions that we can today. And that's all in line with that definition of sustainability, meeting the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs, but also living on our island like we intend to stay here. And so there's a lot of actions that with to achieve that vision of a sustainable future for Guam, a lot of those actions that we're taking as a team and building up as many partnerships with collaborators and really creating a coalition to create that sustainable future together, because it's definitely something that uh, I care about, that our team cares about, but everybody here who lives in Guam will find passion in making sure that our island is here in the future and that their children can live in happy and prosperous lives as well.
Let me ask you this. Does sustainable future equal innovation for you? Do you have to innovate in order to get to a sustainable future in your mind?
Absolutely. Innovation is critical. It's essential to achieving that sustainable future.
Outstanding. Okay, so you have a annual conference on island sustainability. You just finished the most recent conference last month. Can you tell me about some of the origins of the conference and some of the more interesting conversations and initiatives that have come out of recent conferences?
Yeah, that's right, Robert. So last month we wrapped up our 16th annual University of Guam Conference on Island Sustainability. It was our biggest one yet. It was our most exciting one yet, I think. We continue to try to level that up every year, but I'll start back at the beginning as you asked. Well, first of all, our University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability was founded in 2009 by our former president, President Emeritus, Dr. Robert Underwood. He thought that there's some other universities doing innovative things, creating global centers for sustainability. And he said, I don't think we're going to do a global one, but we definitely can do one that supports our region in a center for island sustainability. And so we started off having the conferences on island sustainability the following year in 2010. And
Mhm.
when I came back home from graduate school and became a faculty member at the University of Guam, then I had the privilege to start coordinating these and leading the team that puts it together. And so we've had a lot of different themes in 16 years. A lot of the first ones were more renewable energy focused. There was a year where we partnered with the University of Alaska and had a theme called Islanded Communities, because even though Alaska is not an
Mm.
island, they really have isolated communities. And Guam was also thought to be isolated, but we've moved on from this concept that islands are isolated. We're actually very connected. People are thinking that islands are sinking, that islands are have scarcity. So there's all of these things that we want to flip that mindset. Actually, this was a conference theme from maybe 3 years ago now, that islands are rising, right? It's counterintuitive to the way that that most people from elsewhere will think about islands, but we have ancient celestial knowledge here in the Pacific Islands that allowed our people to move around by using the science of looking at the stars to get from island to island far before Christopher Columbus accidentally found America. We were doing these types of things, and today we're more connected than many other places in the world with the amount of fiber optic cables coming in to our island. And that's another area that you probably are thinking about, Robert, for more innovation. How do we leverage that kind of technical
Yes.
capacity and bandwidth that's coming in here? There's a lot of things about islands that we are actually perfect places to lead the way in a sustainable future and make local actions here for global impact in this space to achieve a global planet. And so, I'm happy to talk more about those partnerships and how we're doing that. But just real quickly about the conference, I just wanted to end that with that we had about 1,200 participants this year, over 132 featured speakers. A lot of these
Wow.
people are coming in from off island now, and it's an event that you can't miss, especially if you want to work with other Pacific Islanders. Nearly 180 attendees from off island. We probably would have had more if there was federal travel allowed, because a lot of the program officers and federal agencies like to come. But it was an exciting week. It's a full week from Monday through Saturday that starts off with the Guam Power Authority doing their Power Summit, taking us on a conversation. This is their third year doing it. How are we going to get to the 100% renewable energy mandate by 2045? We had
Yes.
a NASA space grant, a NASA Ep.7 student symposium on what kind of activities are happening there in the geosciences. We had an event with the Pacific Islands Climate Science and Adaptation Center. A lot of really great presenters on the latest science of climate variability and climate action happening. We had a green growth summit, which, I'll talk more about Guam green growth in a bit. We had leaders from the Pacific Islands and even from Japan that are working on the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And then there was 3 straight days of the full conference activities with our keynote speaker, Marshall Islands President Hilda Heine, delivering a keynote
Mm.
about the innovations that they're doing uh, in the Marshall Islands, all around this theme of solutions for our future. And it was critical, and I think we had it in the description of the overall conference this year, is that it had to be about innovations. What kind of solutions are we going to have? What kind of technologies would we pull in? What kind of experts are we going to work with? And of course, going back to that island wisdom, what are the lessons that we have here and that ingrained sense of innovation to move us forward to that sustainable future and ensure that our islands are here um, for forevermore, really.
Absolutely. Going back to what you said about the um, paradigm changes about how people see islands and think about island. I really like that mindset change because it's just flipping a paradigm about how you see islands and their possibilities and their connectedness in the world. So I really enjoyed that. Uh, a rabbit hole question for you. You said that CTA starts off um, at the very beginning of the week. Was this the year that they had a scientist from somewhere on the West Coast talking about possible innovation to use the delta in ocean temperature from the surface to below to generate power, sustainable power? Was that the
You're right. You're
discussion
right.
this year?
That was in the front page of the paper. Actually, whatever was happening at the conference made the front page that whole week. But we did have GPA had invited some speakers from the Pacific Northwest Natural Laboratories, so
Mhm,
that PNNL, and they talked about OTEC among other things, but ocean thermal energy conversion. There was
mhm.
discussions about wave energy, about wind energy, so also on how to use ocean energy to power food security in terms of an aquaculture production facility. So there was, topics including that from energy, food security, circular economy, natural resources management, and more.
So, some more rabbit hole questions. You said the aquaculture piece. Is that more like um, offshore ships that are doing not just the catching, but also the processing and distribution of aquaculture? Or are you talking
Oh
about
no,
something else?
not ships really, and not catching, but actually seeding and growing more like open ocean pens or pens of that, like they look like
Ah, yes,
uh, big these nets that
yes,
you can either anchor in one spot or you can let it float out there and you use GPS or satellites to go harvest when the fish are big enough. But different kind of models like that, or you can do aquaculture based on land. So just a couple things that we're doing in that area for our Sea Grant program is that we have this community-based aquaculture system, or CBAS for short. And so we're actually putting out these aquaponic systems in the villages behind people's homes or in community areas that we're hoping to get at least 100 of those installed to improve security around the island, and people can work together and learn how to run those systems. And we have an aquaculture extension agent that goes out with his team to train people how to do that. It's supported by some funding from Sea Grant and also funding from the governor's office as part of her priority to build an aquaculture industry. But then we also got grants for aquaculture or ocean energy and aquaculture studies, like feasibility studies. And so those partners at PNNL are working with some of our UOG faculty here to determine where could be the best sites for ocean energy, like those windmills, the tidal energy. I had some collaborators from University of Michigan. We actually worked on not really energy, but ocean desalinization pilots. So there's a lot of things
yes,
going on for innovation in terms of this space. We don't have an active ocean aquaculture system yet, but we have to take all of these steps to get there, to see what the community thinks about a project like that, about the siting location, and all the other factors. You got to check like the currents and the eddies, where any possible effluent would go, and how you minimize that, and make sure that you're not going to block off fishing access points or things like that. So you have to
right.
talk to the community about any possible trade-offs before implementing decisions like that. And so that's what Sea
Wow,
Grant's
that's
good at, the facilitation of discussions like that.
yeah, that sounds really interesting. So, um, basically, with some of those initiatives, like you were talking about with the hydroponics, how does someone get involved in that? Because that seems like a no-brainer for a lot of our restaurant industries on island that they would want to have something like that out back to be able to grow their own fresh fruits and vegetables.
Well, yeah, you're right. And I'll get back to the restaurants in a second, but if you're just a homeowner and you want to have your own aquaponic system and you're willing to to do the work and maintain it for 2 years and go to the trainings, then we're going to have an application period out as soon as this new grant kicks in. So I imagine over the summer sometime that you can apply to get one of these systems and join the cohort. But also, I mean, I agree with you about restaurants, like hotels, for example, like Hyatt. They have their own garden in the back, at least for their herbs, and they make a lot of sustainable choices in the types of food that they provide to their guests. And that's why our conference on island sustainability has been there, because of a lot of those choices that they make. Then there is local restaurants like Capital Kitchen, and they don't even promote it enough, I think, because it's really exciting
Right.
that they have their own container
Yes.
garden in the back, and they're growing their own lettuce. And you can even use one of those hydroponic container systems to grow things like strawberry that typically wouldn't work in Guam's climate.
Yes, yes, really excited. And those were the two that I thought about, the Hyatt and Capital Kitchen. Those were the ones that I've heard about as kind of models of that. Another rabbit hole question about alternative energy. So how does your initiatives fold into the governor's mandate for uh, 2045? And um, I've been told that we tried maybe some years or decades back when alternative energy solutions here on Guam, but they didn't work because of some reason. Can you talk any about those things?
Sure. Well, first of all, for that mandate, that law that I think was passed, gosh, I can't remember the year anymore, but a few years back, um, we were part of that conversation, provided testimony, helped with the law that passed for 50% renewable energy by 2035 and 100% renewable energy by 2045. And so, I don't think that GPA wanted a mandate at first, but they said after it got passed, bring it on. We're going to beat your mandate, and they think they can reach 50% by 2030, or as they announced at our conference this year, maybe even earlier, to get to 50%. And they want to beat the 2045 deadline by 2040, if not earlier. So we're excited that that's moving forward, and that GPA is a partner continuously making the efforts on that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exciting, especially given the fact that it really just takes a change in mindset, right? Rather than looking at it as a burden or whatever, it's an opportunity to create and innovate and think differently about how do we get from where we are today to where we want to be in the future.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the failed wind turbine initiatives from the past? Do you know
Well,
anything
I'm
about
not
that?
I'm not too familiar with that. You'd have to ask Guam Power Authority on that, but I heard something similar, that there was maybe one or two pilot studies for windmills that was over a decade ago. But I know that technology changes every day, and so I hope that there will be another study for windmills. I did hear something like those windmills rusted fast. So that material is wasn't made for the islands, but obviously we have lots of ocean windmills now, and so I'm sure
Right.
there's another way to test it. If we can test it on land or test it in the ocean, it would be great to see wind in the mix, because the thing that everybody agrees on is that 100% renewable energy can't be 100% solar, because we have clouds and rain and things like that.
Right.
So we have to have a mix of solar, of battery storage, maybe wave and wind energy. We have to explore the other methods in order to actually get to the 100%. One of the partnerships that both our center and GPA has is now with the Blue Planet Alliance. So when we signed that 100% renewable energy mandate, we got to become the first U.S. island territory to be a member of the Planet Alliance, which is founded by a really cool tech innovator named Hank Rogers. He's the guy who brought Tetris to the world. They made a movie about
Mm.
him a couple years ago on Apple TV. A real cool thriller how he brought the game out of Russia. Anyway, when he had a heart attack after he made all of his money, he woke up after getting his widowmaker surgery, as he tells this story, and he found out that he said, "Damn it, I almost died and I never even spent my money yet." And so and then he also learned about things like coral reefs bleaching and degrading. And he said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to take climate action. And now he has this foundation that's really inspiring, starting with island nations and a lot of other nations to sign 100% renewable energy mandates. Hawaii was the first state to do that. And you think maybe that's not too much, but who did it next? California, who just in the other day in the news is now the world's fourth largest economy, up from number five. And then, it was great for them, but Guam can also benefit from this. We're not going to make the biggest global contribution, but it's going to make a whole lot of difference for us and for our sustainability and our economy to be that first U.S. territory to make that commitment. And then now, when you're in that network, they have a fellowship program where they're bringing all of these islanders together twice a year in Hawaii, and they give them all of the resources and access to the experts. Like, what do you need help with to achieve your goal? This is how, these are the tools and resources that we have to help you achieve that. And so it's a
Wow, that's
fantastic
so
network.
exciting. So exciting that that's out there. All right, can you tell me about the makerspace in Chamorro Village? How are you leveraging technology there at the makerspace to benefit uh, of the island?
So back to the earlier part of our conversation where you asked about the circular economy. Why is that important for Guam? It's because we have two big sustainability challenges here. First of all, we have an over reliance on imports. 90% of all the food and goods we consume are imported, right? And then that makes one of our number one exports, not a product, but it's our dollars. Every other dollar or
Dollars.
so that we bring in, we have to send back out to bring the food, the goods, the fuel back into Guam that we're going to use. So that's the
Yes.
first big problem. The second big sustainability challenge is that we have an overproduction of waste. And so the way that we manage our waste is that we dig holes in the ground, we fill it up with trash, we cover it with dirt, and then, we're running out of space. And it's really expensive to do it that way. So the key to the circular economy is to stop thinking of waste as waste, but think about it as resources. And so there's big companies out there innovating in the circular economy space, like Apple, for example, putting more circular components into your iPhones and into your computers. Philips uh, found a way to start selling light instead of light bulbs. So they'll get a contract with an airport and it's their job to just keep the lights on. Now they don't have an incentive to let their light bulbs burn out anymore. So that
I
becomes part of the circular economy. You just keep things going. Um, but so Guam, we're not at that level yet, but maybe Robert, with your help, we're going to get to manufacture computers and light bulbs one day. But for now, what are we going to do with our capabilities to transition to the circular economy, knowing and remembering that islands are the original circular economy? We wanted to put this opportunity into the hands of our community. So we opened up the G3 Circular Economy Makerspace and Innovation Hub at the Chamorro Village. It's spread across three houses there. And what we have is in one house, a classroom, in another house, a plastic resource center where you can shred, melt, extrude, and create products out of plastic, including plastic lumber. So you can have two by
Yep.
twos, two by fours, half plywood size sheets. Then there's the industrial house that has things like CNC routers, a metal Tormach machine that you can carve metal products, a variety of 3D printers, just different laser cutters, and a whole bunch of power tools. And we have a team there of makers and also business development experts to help whoever wants to come in, bring in their waste product, bring their vision to life for their new product. And then you can take whatever you make and then sell it in our demonstration store to test the market, see how it does. And then we want to help you get so good at that you leave our store and you go open up your own space, effectively growing Guam's green industry. So yeah, that's the whole concept
Outstanding.
behind it. And last year I think our numbers are over 5 or 6 thousand visitors to the space. Uh, a couple dozen companies consulted and expanded, and we a couple or last weekend we had all of the the GUMA business incubator cohort members come in to see how they can use the space and take their business ideas to life. So we're working with them, junior achievement students, this Nenpire, which is an entrepreneur program for nennies, the kids. And anybody else who wants to work with us, you can think of it as getting a gym membership, and it's actually cheaper than a gym membership. You don't want to buy, or maybe you can't afford your leg press and your bench press and your flying machines and the ab machines or whatever it is, just like you can't afford to get all of these sophisticated machines in your house. You can come and be a G3 Maker member, and it's about $50 a month. You can get discounts if you're in one of the partner programs, but the cool thing about that is that you can actually spend an hour on a machine like the laser cutter with one sheet
Yes.
of recycled plywood, uh, and then you can walk out of there with over $1,000 worth of retail merchandise if you're making earrings or ornaments or phone stands or whatever you can imagine. There's so many possibilities if you have that creativity and you want to spend the time to bring these ideas to life.
Well, like I talked to you about last week, I'm interested in joining the makerspace, and I'd like to go down there and put my hands on some stuff and get the
Awesome.
training and everything. So I'm really excited about that. All right, tell me about what workforce development initiatives are needed in order to advance your vision and support your mission.
Well, I'll tell you about a couple workforce development programs that we're implementing at the UOG Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant. First is projects funded by the National Science Foundation, called Includes and Navigating Home and EPSCoR. There's a few projects there where we created um, over 200 new opportunities for students in Guam and Micronesia that never existed before. So we are able to train high school, undergraduate, graduate student, and early career fellows in the marine and environmental science area. We give them research experiences with a faculty mentor. They do a project. It looks really great for their grad school resumes, but they're also creating solutions to island challenges. We take them to national conferences to put them in front of opportunities they would have never seen otherwise with graduate schools or careers or scholarships. And so what's important about that is we're creating a lot more local marine and environmental scientists so that we can make assessments and decisions about our own natural resources without the need for bringing outside expertise every time we can't figure something out. So it's really great that we have more of our local scientists, and then we also have our one of our flagship Guam Green Growth projects, which is the Guam Green Growth Conservation Corps. Now the Guam Green Growth Kupu Conservation Corps, because we have another member that invested heavily this year that I'll tell you about in a second. But basically, the Conservation Corps is a program designed to prepare our community for the emerging green economy. So in the main program, the flagship one, we select 12 members out of dozens and dozens of applicants. They just have to be 18 years old or older and have an interest or a passion in sustainability, even though they have no work experience in that area. We pick 12 of them. And then they go out every day for 6 months working full time, and they get training in agriculture, aquaculture, invasive species removal, um, invasive species removal, renewable energy, circular economy, ocean conservation, and more. And then they walk out of that program at graduation with continuing education units from the University of Guam to put onto their resumes. And we're proud that the vast majority of all of our graduates have gone into jobs in the green economy, or they went back to the University of Guam or GCC for additional training to eventually get in those green jobs. And Kupu is a nonprofit in Hawaii that has also invested to help us raise the salary of our members and give them an educational stipend to use.
Nice.
They can actually pay for their tuition now at the end of their program, and so we're really excited that that has grown actually to maybe over 30 members per year in other kinds of conservation corps that we were able to start with other grants and investors helping out.
Okay. Outstanding. What kind of additional support do you think is required from the government, both Gov Guam as well as the federal government?
Well, at a minimum, we need the continued support from what they help us with now. But what I always share with the legislature and other funders is that for example, they give us a few $100,000 each year as some base support for what we do, but we're bringing in over $20 million in external grants. And so we can tell them immediately that we give you a 21 time return on investment for giving us those seeds funds that act as required federal matching dollars to bring in those external dollars. So that really helps support us. And any additional dollar that they give us will up the ROI from there. So we're always looking for partners to see who wants to be a part of the type of work that we do at the center and through the Green Growth Initiative.
Outstanding. Okay, so if you were king for the day, what would you do to accelerate Guam's innovation and improvement as a community?
Well, I would never want to be a king or a dictator. I think that we see why that kind of thing is so bad right now. But if I could have more influence in a way to create more partnerships and grow more allies, I would do whatever I could to continue building our coalition of people who care about our sustainable future. And so we see that every time we have a cohort graduating of our conservation corps members, or we continue to build our team that's all funded on grants. It grew from 3 people in a few years ago. Now we're a team of over 80 people strong, doing a whole bunch of different things. But I would probably, if I really had some kind of authority for the day, change some of our policies and make things easier to get to a sustainable future, to make investments where that will matter most. And I think there would have to be some definite innovations in that space. And I'd have to talk to you, Robert. Maybe you could be the first advisor for that day with some authority.
You know about all of that. I'm just one man, a voice crying in the wilderness. So let me circle back real quick for another rabbit hole question. Um, I think the name of the product is U Blocks. At some point, the governor was looking at funding this startup's product. I think they were out of California or something, and they were taking recycled plastics and turning them into construction materials. And they kind of deliver a kind of a soup to nuts capability that allows you to kind of build the blocks, if you will, in order to use in construction. Can you tell me about what's going on with that? What happened? I think the governor was looking at $1 or $2 or something like that for it.
Yeah, well, so that company is called Bifusion, and their product is called the BiBlock. And and just to back up a little bit briefly, we have a lot of plastics on our island that we're producing as waste every day and not thinking about as resources. And it's the vast majority of it is going to the landfill. Before China or Indonesia would take our plastic waste, but that's just not happening anymore. The one place that we actually have plastic recycling is our makerspace at the Chamorro Village. We accept donations of plastics number 2 and number 5 on during the Wednesday night market, and we can use our precious plastic machines to turn it into that plastic lumber I mentioned and a whole bunch of other products. And we actually had a meeting this morning with our engineering faculty member, and he's doing all of these really cool stress tests. He just made a beam of 2 by 2, and he found that it's 2.2 times stronger than concrete, and I think twice as hard as the commercially available plastic product that's similar to it. So we're making some good products right there, and we're going to have all the science behind that to um, help with that industry. But basically, we can only recycle plastics 2 and 5, and we can't take everybody's waste on the island. So bifusion, BiBlocks is one of those innovations that we're looking out to there in the world, that it can actually take all plastics 1 through 7 and then use heat and compression. The whole machine, like the machines come in one container and it becomes a factory, and use heat and compression, and you put the plastic in there without even having to clean it. Um, Smashes it up, and you a BiBlock, which is a 22-pound block of plastic, and it works just like a concrete cinder block. Um, and you can build civil works projects or things like benches or small homes. So it would definitely offset a lot of the need for concrete blocks and imports. And so that's one solution that we've been looking to. We've been working with the governor's office to write grants in this area. It would actually be about a $2.5 million investment to get started, and then hopefully it pays for itself if we can keep the price of the blocks the same as a concrete block. But yeah, that's still something we're actively working to. We submitted a couple grants last year that weren't successful, so we need to find the next opportunity to try to move that forward.
Outstanding. It's good to hear that that's still in work. Um, I tell you, this has been a great conversation, Dr. Shelton. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I've been so excited to want to talk to you and have this conversation. And finally, here it is. I would love to just stay here and talk all afternoon, but we've got to kind of wrap up today's show. Probably, I think there'll be opportunities for us to cycle back around and have you back on the podcast, because I know there's going to be lots of different initiatives going on, and I really like to do that. Have you back on podcast to talk.
That sounds good. Thank you so much for the invitation. This was fun, and I look forward to talking more with you when you're a member down at the Makerspace at Chamorro Village. So see you again soon, Robert.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
For my audience, I hope you learned something today. I certainly did. Watch for my podcast dropping weekly at the beginning of each week. Follow me on social media platforms, and don't forget to like, subscribe on all my content. I'm really trying to get my content out there to a wider audience. Your views, your subscriptions, and your engagement with the content really helps the algorithm get my content out there to a larger audience. So please look forward to your engagement with the content. And finally, please read my Innovate column at guampdn.com, the first and third Friday of each month. With that, I'll see you next time. And remember, no matter whether you're at work or at home or at play, always innovate.